Welcome, everybody, to episode 48 of PT Shop Talk. On today's episode, we revisit our back pain tips and tricks, catch up from what we missed on last time as we got into a rando cast, and then we finish up with our top 5 favorite sports announcers / commentators. With me, as always, is Nick. Let's get ready to rumble, Doling, and Jeremy Baby Van Kloppenberg. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome, Casey.
We're back again. I survived my trip. Still detoxing.
You're back from Texas.
Back from Texas. So if I'm a little slow today, forgive me. I am getting a little too old to not drink water and only drink alcohol for like 4 days. Not a good combo. Stay hydrated. Stay hydrated, they say.
I was beginning to ask you, how far did you drive down on day one of your trip?
Pretty much the OKC area, Oklahoma City. So it's, do 12 to 14 hours that first day and 3 the next. It's a nice run.
Yeah,
There's just something like 12 hours of driving really isn't that bad. But boy, when you get past like 13, 14, 15, it does start to drag. So
there's certain points, I agree with you. There's certain points where you just hit a wall and maybe it's just a little too much.
Yeah, the 12-hour thing's nice. You leave at 6:30, you get to Oklahoma City, 6:30, you have supper, get a room. Yeah, it's just good timing.
Yeah.
Then you can.
Did you run into a lot of Bison fans like along the way when you stop?
Boy, probably the least amount of any year, but also ran into no Jacks fans either. We left Thursday morning at 6. So I think we were just kind of ahead of the rush a little bit.
Yeah.
With the Sunday game, I think more people tried to work a full week or close to a full week.
And they leave Friday.
Yeah, leave Friday, travel all day Saturday, get there Saturday night, party, game on Sunday. Where the Saturday game, I think people were like, well, I got to take Friday off anyways. I might as well take Thursday off and leave Wednesday. So I think it just kind of shortened it for everybody.
Yeah, when I went 4 years ago, we did a short turnaround time, the guys that I rode with, just going with the flow, and we left Friday morning.
That's a very short turnaround time.
And no, sorry. We left Thursday. Left Thursday real early, made it all the way to Thackerville that night.
Sounds made up.
To your point, it does sound made up, but it's actually home for those listeners out there who like trivia, home to the biggest casino in North America.
Oh, so that's the one that's got like 45 different themes on the outside of it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we stayed there, and then from that point, it's just like another hour the next day to get into Dallas proper and have a good time. So it was fast, and then I think I shared with you, we left about an hour or two after the game.
Yeah.
And then drove to Wichita, Kansas, stayed there, and then drove the rest of the way Sunday. So it was it did feel like a short turnaround time. Then we're back to work Monday morning.
Oof, that's brutal. Yeah, we left right after the game as well. But again, just went to Oklahoma City, got 3-4 hours down the road. And
now, how rough was the drive home?
I gotta say, if I'm gonna be honest, I was all right. The worst part about it is normally you're driving home on Sunday and we just put football games on our phones and you watch football the whole way home.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice. Where here it was like Monday, I couldn't read any of the news because I just didn't want to read about the game. So I stayed off ESPN for the most part. No football to watch until the evening, which that game really didn't entertain us a whole lot either.
No, but you could look at it and say, hey, at least we weren't TCU.
Could have been worse. Yeah. So no, I got a Yukon. We got TVs in there, so I was watching TV and watching movies or whatever, and brought some books with. It's a good time to read. I drove down quite a bit of the way, and then after the game, I drove. So most the way back, I didn't drive at all. So
you read 16 or 17 full Stephen King novels?
Yeah, I had one. I did not read it though.
Yeah.
No, it was good. I was not bummed out at all, if I'm gonna be honest. I thought it would suck more than it did.
It was.
You win 9 of them.
Yeah, it is. It's like the opposite of the Vikings effect. I've said that even the last couple of years. It's hard. I don't know. It's hard to get down when they win almost every year.
Yeah.
And now that might change, and there might be a down period for a number of years. Who knows? But like when you look at the Vikings, we're constantly waiting for the other shoe to fall. Even as we go into playoffs right now, I'm seeing it. We're frauds yet. People are still calling us frauds. And, might be one and done, or even if you win, you ain't beating San Francisco, on that presumption, they're going to roll Seattle. So it's just kind of interesting. Psychology, I guess. Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't feel all that bad. And being so close to Brookings and having so many Brookings fans around here, it's kind of like, good for that,
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt a little bit. Although I will say that was probably the only part that stung also was it was SDSU. I think it was just some random team. I wouldn't have cared at all. But yeah, it's in that game, you kind of knew the outcome pretty early on too. So it probably would have stung more if you lost in the last drive or something. But after that interception, it was pretty sealed. I really think NDSU was sealed after they went for just kicked an extra point when you could have went for 2 to make it a 2-possession game. That's always like that white flag moment where you're like, oh, man, the coach doesn't even feel like he wants to play at this point, It's so that. Yeah, it was pretty easy to swallow. I actually almost went on the field. I thought about rushing the field with the fans. It's fun down there. It was interesting. NDSU's football players stayed down on the field.
Oh yeah.
Ceremony. I don't think any team's ever done that when NDSU's won. So I don't know if that was meant to be like a let this sink in, like you don't want to feel this way again moment, or what the thought process there was.
Stephon Diggs pick from losing to the Chiefs a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Confetti.
McCarthy did that after TCU beat him too.
He did.
Yeah.
JJ.
Yeah.
Man, how bad would you have felt if your old Michigan Wolverines would have been beat by Georgia 65-6? Who knows?
I watched the
football math.
1 point worse, huh?
Yeah, football math. That's probably what would have happened, right? 72 to 7.
Yeah, 73-4. Some weird math.
What I want to know, I've been waiting, Jeremy, for this pod. I want to get your take on that Natty game from Monday night.
You know how much I watched of it? 4.5 minutes.
Okay.
So they went 3 and out. TCU goes 3 and out, and I we had this group chat with some college buddies. I'm like, Georgia went down and scored in like 36 seconds or whatever it was. I know it wasn't that quick, but they
Felt
just
like it.
drove on them. I mean, it was just no resistance at all. And I texted them, I'm like, they're gonna put up 50, and I turned off the game. I'm like, it was bad. That was
yeah, I was coaching that night until I don't know 7:30, and no later than that, because by the time I turned it on, the game must have been on for like an hour, and it was early second quarter, and the game was only 17-7, and TCU had the ball, so I'm like, okay, they have a chance to make this like 1-score game, and then they swiftly punted it away, and Georgia scored the very next play on a bomb. And then it was like, all right, the route's on, right? And then I didn't watch any of it. And right as I'm laying in bed, I'm like, I might as well just see what the old score of the game is. Maybe TCU crawled back. It's like at that point it was like 52-7. And so do you think it was truly that much of a mismatch?
I do. Man, I jokingly was saying like to my buddies, I'm like, why couldn't Alabama been in it, right? Like that's the whole thing at the beginning of the year, right? Or at the beginning of the playoffs. And I don't know. They said it would have been, had they pulled it off. They were touting it. It would have been the greatest underdog story of all time in any sport.
That's just recency bias, I think, and hyperbole.
No, they went back.
Nope,
they went back.
You're wrong.
It would have been the greatest in NCAA football, basketball. They went through it all. Like the Vegas odds
Who's they? Give me names.
ESPN, the
Still,
ESPN.
I'm not gonna believe that crap. Whatever they're
All of
saying.
them.
I'll produce
Like,
it.
that's where I'm going with this thing. Because Casey, were you and I talking about this just briefly this afternoon? Where you talk about a tale of 2 weeks. So 1 week ago, couldn't be higher on college football. Is this the best thing ever? You just came off the heels of back-to-back amazing semifinal games, like down to the wire, high scoring. Everybody, yeah, this is awesome. You got the right teams in it this year, and you got a little underdog story with TCU beating Michigan, and now you flash forward. And I'm working with patients Tuesday, and everything on ESPN is like, is this the worst thing to happen in college football? Biggest blowout ever in a bowl game, all this stuff. I don't know. So I don't buy it. It's just overreaction.
The consensus odds on them winning the national championship was 200-1. In 99, the St. Louis Rams were 150-1. In 91, the Twins were 80-1. The Carolina Hurricanes NHL in 2006 were 60-1. 2014 UConn men's basketball 65-1. They said in terms of
that's fair.
It would have
so you're
been,
talking about Vegas,
Vegas
odds
like,
like is that the beginning of the year, like where they were when the season started? Yeah. But I think you almost got to take college football as like two different eras at this point too. Back, if you're going to compare it, apples to apples to like what the Twins did in 91. That's, back in 91, they were just voting teams into the championship game, so you didn't really have these opportunities. I don't think we're going to see this either once they move to 12 teams. I don't think we're going to see what I felt like it was. I don't think TCU's that bad. I don't think it was like a 65. I don't think that's, par for the course. If they play 10 times, Georgia probably wins 9 of them and wins, by 3 scores on average. I don't think it's 65-7 every single time they play. But what I do think we experienced was TCU had you had one team, you had 2 amazing semifinal games. One team had a huge hangover. We're just happy to be there. And the other team is like, no, we're going to roll you. We did this last year. We have higher expectations. And we got a geriatric quarterback.
Every breath is a gift for him at that age, I would assume.
That's real.
Plan to live. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Michigan's got to feel kind of cruddy because, boy, they could have put up a lot better showing than TCU.
I'm a big believer in football math. That game's 72-7.
That makes sense. I like that.
That's how that works.
I mean, Ohio State almost beat them, and Michigan beat them. How's your math? It's flawed.
Yeah, but that was like regular season.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Those equations don't matter. Yeah, it's only playoffs where you can do the math. Yeah, no, it's so crazy to think, right?
That's why you play the game.
Yeah, I was saying to Casey earlier too, so Stetson Bennett became like a little bit of a meme, and I didn't know much about him, but apparently he's 25 years old and still hanging out. He's like the Van Wilder of college quarterbacks. What do you know about this, Jason? Jeremy?
Barry. They were saying, fun fact, right? He's the same age as Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, and Kyler Murray. He's older than 19 NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah.
19.
So what's the story with him? Like, why is he still there?
I don't know. Honestly, I have no clue. I don't know if did he ever get hurt? I mean,
no, I don't know. Did he have a COVID? I'm assuming 1 year was probably a COVID
year. Yeah.
So I pulled it up in 2017. He was walk-on at Georgia. Didn't take a snap.
6 years.
Then he went to community college.
I heard that. I heard he transferred and then transferred back. I did hear something.
Transferred back in 2019. Yeah. Wow. That's nuts.
All over.
They were basically saying like the dude is just like they've tried to get rid of him like 6 different times and he just like he keeps coming back.
Yeah. Man, because he rarely ever comes up as far as like, Mel Kiper's draft board, Todd McShay's board, or anything like that. But he looked the couple plays that I saw, man, he's got some wheels too.
Yeah.
He had a couple keepers where he was just burning guys.
Yeah, that first touchdown, he was gone. I mean, he did like one little quick juke and
well, I saw one where it was like just as they were pulling away, so it might have been that the drive to make it 24/7 or maybe the ensuing one. I don't know.
Hard to keep track.
Yeah. But it was like a third and 11. TCU had him where they wanted him, and he just tucked it, ran around left, and just burned like two pretty good linebackers, and got like not just 11, he got like freaking like 22, 23 yards out of the play. And I'm like, dude, this guy's ready to play. What do you guys think of those? Do you guys have a problem with him still playing? Any issue with that level of eligibility?
No, there's another guy they were talking. There's a guy at Oregon that might be like, he was just granted as either his 7th or 8th year of eligibility.
8th year, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't want this to happen all the time, but with the COVID stuff, I mean, I'm okay with it. I don't think it's something you need to like completely pull from the record books and stuff on a lot of this. I mean, maybe career stuff.
Devil's advocate. How do you? Yeah, well, okay. You beat me to the punch on the career stats thing, because that's very intriguing. But then, how? Okay, I get the COVID year, but then how do we get 8 years?
That dude was hurt, right? Like he.
So it's like three medicals.
I think he's gotten 3 medicals.
And a COVID year.
And a
And a redshirt year. That's too many.
So yeah, wow. No.
So 2.
So he's tight end Cam McCormick,
okay.
8th season, granted 9th year of eligibility.
9th year.
9th. Like what are we doing?
He tore his Achilles. I think he tore an ACL or 2.
Don't get me wrong. Like, poor guy. Bad luck, but it's almost just so blatant with these situations. Like, I'm not here to go to school. Like, I'm gonna keep playing ball.
Yeah, I mean, but if he's any good though, he's not gonna be in college for 8 years.
And then he goes in the NFL and blows another ACL. I mean,
no, I'm right.
No, you're right. Yeah, he should be in the NFL by now. Yeah.
He had 10 catches for 66 yards and 3 touchdowns this year in his first full year without injury since 2017.
So like, why are you?
So it's like, well,
game, man.
You don't get that time back, right? I mean, I'd probably do the same thing if they let me.
He's having the damn time of his life.
Yeah,
I don't know how to feel about it.
He should probably have a doctorate. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
should.
Hopefully he's like in a master's program at least by now. Right.
You remember Christian Ponder when he came to the Vikes? He'd had his master's in 4 years. You know,
so he had
stuff.
He was so smart. That was what was going to make him such a
good smart. I know, brilliant man.
He was hospitalized with rhabdo in 2017. 2018 through 2021, he broke his left ankle that required 3 surgeries, and then he tore his right Achilles.
That's a brutal ankle break for 3 years.
Does he?
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
does he already have a degree? Does he tell me he's got his bachelor's already?
You need to know his life story, huh?
Well, I mean, there's got to be.
I mean, you got it. You have to keep a certain amount of credits to be eligible.
Yeah,
I mean, he's going to school the whole time, right?
Yeah, because I mean, people always had a problem with individuals who were given like a free pass or did like get some type of fake, hollow degree or major, even though they had no intention of graduating. They were just going to go off the NFL or NBA. But now we got this other end too that I don't think is the right way to go either. That you're just a career athlete.
He's
get all these years of eligibility.
Yeah, he will be entering his 8th season of college football with 2 years of eligibility remaining. He's entering the portal. So that's what I'm saying is like, at that point.
Oh, well, that's
so good. at that point. No, I'm like, at that point,
bring him on.
That's the crazy thing. Like, you're at Oregon. If you're that good, if you're that good to be in the NFL, like you you'd be there.
You go at year 2. You go at year 3.
Yeah. Yep. You'd be there.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. There was one guy, I think he went from Michigan to Wisconsin, or into Iowa to Nebraska, tight end. And you're like, dude, if you're that good, if you're at any of those Big Ten programs, if you're that good, you're gonna be in the league.
Nah, dude, we rehabbed athletes. It's all it's just bad coaches, man. Coaches didn't like them.
Coaches didn't like me.
Never given a right break.
We had like 2 or 3 athletes that was their story. I mean, they were legit like athletic dudes, but they'd have these stories coming in like
that had 10 catches at SMSU.
Like 4. This is like their 5th school, and it's always the coaches. Which is a whole, like, you could have a whole leadership episode.
All right, those are dudes that are not handling hard better.
Correct.
No, we stories on. It was mainly saw that on the football team, but guys that I was going to the league or I was going D1, and it's like, dude, if you were, you'd be there. You wouldn't be at Southwest Minnesota State. I'm sorry.
You'd find a way.
And if you were going to the league, you'd probably have somewhere between 110 and 120 catches and like 15 touchdowns. Then you might go to the league. Then you might go to the league.
It's just all, yeah. I was talking with Case about that, like that, that 8th year of eligibility, that blows my mind. And he's still got 2 more. He could be an even 10er, double digits.
Yeah. No, he's got his 8th and his 9th.
Yeah.
Oh,
they granted him an extra year so he can transfer with 2 years remaining. So it'll be his 8th.
So then, Jeremy, how would you feel if a gentleman, let's say he was successful, let's say he just wanted to continue on. Hypothetically, how would you feel if he happened to be like a 5-time All-American?
Yeah, again, I think
what's his name?
It's super hypothetical, because why the guy that is in his 9th year, Cam McCormick?
Cam McCormick, breaks the history books. First 5-time All-American ever. How would you feel about that?
Huge asterisks. I mean,
it's
a huge asterisk. Yeah. But I'm saying, like, the idea though, like, if you're going to be a 5-time All-American, like, why would you do it? You'd be in the league.
Yeah. Well, here so in the sport of wrestling, we had this come up last year in March, and I was telling Case, like, once these guys qualified for the NCAA tournament, at the tournament, you need to place top 8 in order to be an All-American. And they had this post that turned out to be pretty divisive about like these 7 or 8 guys who were all already 4-time All-Americans, and they had a shot at, like, creating new history at being 5-time All-Americans. And it ended up, starting a little poop storm on the comments section, because you had people who were like, this is absolute bullshit. There should be no such thing as a 5-time All-American. It never has been, and it's not fair. And then you got other people who are just rushing in to defend it right away. And these guys are just passionate about, competing, and they kind of like they're living the life. They don't want to give it up, right? But they had their chance.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. It's like, so what's your take on that, Barry?
Why? Well, like, the only time I feel like that would become an issue is like, because in wrestling you don't really have a place to go pro, right?
Well, you can go UFC. A lot do.
You could, but I don't feel like, like baseball.
You go to the
like, if you're any good, you're being drafted out of high school.
Yeah, the money's not the same, but the level of comp, like the senior level they call it, after you graduate college, that's gotten a lot bigger, and they've gotten a ton of more financial support than they ever used to in the past. It's really taken off. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not like they're going off to make like $3-4 million a year.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it doesn't bother me. I mean, I still think it's
doesn't bother you.
No.
Okay. All right. Casey, I think you told me earlier on record, it doesn't bother you.
Yeah. Well, and I've thought about it a little bit now that we've had time. I'm still okay with it. I mean, if you played for 5 years and you're awesome, you should get that honor. What bothers me a little bit is, again, I think maybe an asterisk is appropriate. And maybe in that case where, these guys are taking because they're in it, that means somebody else isn't being an All-American, right?
Right. Yep. Or
So-
here, can I? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So it would be nice if they had an asterisk and maybe they said, all right, we had 3 5-time, All-Americans. So now we're going to give it to the top 9 people or the top 10 people. However
Yeah.
many 5th-year All-Americans there are, we're going to add a spot.
Yeah.
Because they deserve it, but these other guys would deserve it too. And normally this would be a circumstance they would never have to deal with.
Because you're taking it. I like how you mentioned that. I mean, you are taking a spot, assuming you're going to be that All-American. And I think a couple of them didn't. But
What do you mean taking a spot? Are we giving participation medals?
no, you're taking, like, if you're, like I said, in order to be an All-American, you have to earn that. You got to be top 8 at the national
Right.
tournament. That's like,
So if you're not top 8, sorry, be better.
okay, no, okay, I see where you're going. So I'm gonna give a very similar parallel though. So let's
Okay.
just say for whatever reason, I'm in high school and I don't reach that goal. Let's say I want to be a state champ and I end up getting upset in the semifinals. And I just decide for whatever reason, I'm going to tank out that senior year and I come back, right? And I come back just to win that elusive state title. Like, how do you feel about that? Freaking loser, aren't I?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So you, like, your time, you had your chance. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't. Now, if all you got were your 4 years of it, I mean, and I'm not for maintaining history for history's sake. I mean, some things are unprecedented, and you got to take that into consideration. But only if you lost that 2020 spring campaign because of COVID.
But then
or
you
the 2020 fall.
could make that argument though that it's not fair that somebody gets hurt, right?
But they give medical red shirts.
Yeah, I know.
You get that.
But you didn't.
back,
But if you got
typically.
hurt, you weren't an All-American. So that's why
Right.
you're given that shot.
Same, and that's the same with this tight end, right? I mean, like he didn't play for 4 of those years.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just think
Sweet.
he's wasting his life. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he's a brilliant guy and he's got like 3 degrees. I know nothing about this and I'm weighing it.
you get to work for most of your life. Why not stay in college for a decade?
What do you think about that?
Man, grow up, Peter Pan.
What about that sweet dude down in Wapaton who's playing football at 49? The Wildcats or whatever.
Dude, is that, I almost want to say that's not the first time they've had that.
An
I thought they had
older player.
I thought,
I want to say they had
could've sworn
somebody
this-
in their like late 30s
Yep.
a few years ago, like 38 playing. But this dude's like their dads.
yeah.
This could almost be my dad.
He's jacked. I saw
Yeah,
that
I
whole
mean,
story.
Kudos to him. It sounds like he might come back, play another year. Hopefully he doesn't get
Mhm.
All-American, Nick. I don't think
Well,
at that
that's
level.
He had his chance.
He didn't.
He had his chance when he was a young man. He's been doing Liver
he-
King steroids for 30 years.
I think you guys, you're trying to compare apples to pomegranates here. And
That's all I ever do.
It's a different situation because I don't,
Because
he hasn't
pomegranates
used
are
up his
different than apples.
eligibility. He has not used up that eligibility and he's not trying to bend any rules. He's just older than normal, whereas,
Oh,
you know what? Yeah,
I
some of these
cannot
But you could say
situations,
that you could say that's an advantage though.
I don't think.
I don't know if being 50 is an
I don't know,
advantage
that's a pretty
in
debatable one.
football.
He's
I,
been watching. He's been
I would
watching film for the last
shatter.
30 years.
Yeah, he should be coaching.
great mind.
But he's like, I'm even better than a coach. I'm the coach on the field.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to him.
Uh,
Like, I do a somersault with my kids and they'll get the wind knocked out of me. So, and that guy's,
They're harder than they look.
yeah, right. Ugh, that's a long way
Yeah.
for you to tumble, Jeremy.
It is.
Yeah, I want to say there was a dude, and I don't know if it was, I thought it was somewhere in the upper Midwest, maybe 12 to 15 years ago. And the story was he ended up playing football because he enrolled in school. He's probably, I think he was like late 30s, maybe 40, and enrolled in school late as like a non-trad. And they found out he was like a stud athlete in high school, played 1 year as like a freshman and then dropped out. So when they looked up everything, they're like, you still have 3 years of eligibility left. So he went out for the team and made a spot and earned it and everything like that. So pretty unique thing. There need to be more movies about crap like that.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Do you think his
Yeah,
back
just-
hurts?
I was just going to ask. So, if I decided
Probably.
to go back and play sports, hurt my back. What kind of advice would you give me to feel better?
Jeremy, what type of tips and tricks would you give Casey at his ripe old age to stay healthy and fit in the lumbar area?
Suck it up.
I'd probably have disc bulges, I would assume. Multiples. Maybe multiple at one level, probably. 5 or 6 herniations at my T13. What would you tell me?
That's a painful one.
Yeah, everybody knows that's the worst one. That's the psychotic nerve comes out of there.
The worst segment I've ever seen.
Psychotic.
Yeah. It's giving me pain down my leg like you wouldn't believe.
Where the hell are we going?
No one knows.
Oh, back tips and tricks. Let's move on.
We've tried like 3 segues. It's
I know.
working.
Yeah, it's fine. Let's talk backs. Let's talk backs.
Yeah. So what type of, the idea here, just what do you, for maintenance, right? What are the biggest bang for your buck things that you guys have given out to patients that just help them maintain some quality of life and get on the right path?
Yeah, I think for me, number one is just taking fear away, like that it's gonna be okay. I mean, that I think as therapists and people that listen that have back pain on and off, I think that's just huge, is to not worry too much about anything serious. I mean, there are serious pathologies that can come with back pain, but if it's just that standard low back pain, maybe a little pain into the buttock, you're going to be okay. Get moving early, I think for me too, what I've been successful with is giving not so much, I guess, getting into that like Mackenzie's type stuff, but just finding things that make patients feel good, make sure they're moving a ton, every direction. Mackenzie's therapist would yell at me. I typically have my back pain patients touch their toes, bend forward. I load them up. I give them like a.
That's why they have 6 bulging discs.
Yeah, one segment. I'll do like black TheraBand over the door and just have them lean on that and bend forward until they like it. It's comfortable. Don't be afraid to bend. Things like that. We've talked about lateral positioning for traction too. If it's a really hot radiculopathy, lying on your side, getting legs over bed, leaning back, just to open that up every few minutes. It seems to help a lot. I had a patient come in not too long ago, came in on a wheelchair. It was like a Monday. She was like, oof, I hurt my back. Saturday, by Sunday, I can't put any weight on my leg, and now I'm in a wheelchair. She came in because she was going on a trip to Rome in 10 days. She's like, do you think I should cancel my trip? I looked at her, I said, no, you'll be better in 10 days. I couldn't even do an eval on this lady. We got her from her wheelchair to the treatment table with 2 of us. And I laid her on the side, but with the head of the bed elevated like 50 degrees because she couldn't even go down that far comfortably. And I had a student at the time, and he's like, he's like looking at me and saying, like, you're telling this lady she can go to Rome? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty confident she'll make it.
I think that alone is probably pretty powerful. Probably a successful pathway just by planting those seeds right away. Like,
yeah, we talked about
eliminating fear right away.
Probably how to manage on the airplane. I said the worst part of the trip's going to be the airplane flight. You're gonna be sitting. You got to get up, got to move. Showed her, how to do nerve glides in the airplane and just getting that foot out in front of you, ankle pumps, those kind of things. Get up, walk, go to the bathroom. I did loan her some walking sticks. I said, yeah, you're probably going to want these just to take some load off if you're going to be out and about and you can't find somewhere to sit. This might help, just giving you a little support. But yeah. I saw her twice. I saw her at the eval. I saw her one more time just to show her a few more tips and tricks for her trip. And then she brought those walking sticks back when she got back, and she was fine. So, a lady in a wheelchair, she couldn't walk.
Did you capture a photo on her? Did you get a photo?
I'd have to look back. That's a good question. Should have.
Probably not.
Opportunity.
I know.
Very confident.
I know. I'm not very confident.
2 and done. I love it.
Yeah. But that's those acute back pains. That's not uncommon for them to do that well. If you're confident with them.
Definitely. Yeah. Jerry.
Yeah, same thing. Just getting people moving. It's pretty wild though how, like, you're right. Like how previous seeds planted, like, oh man, 25 and I have DJD. I can never work again, and you're like, God, you're 40 years old and in good shape, and like you still believe that you can't move. You can't, you know, I I heard it the other day. I'm like, it's like, I don't know. To me, it's like, that's some of the biggest stuff. Like you said, getting that information out there early, like as early as possible, to me, like, I think is a good thing. Like, try to educate, even if they're not dealing with it at the time. It's just like, can be a good conversation to have with other people. But this gal, again, same type of thing, of fairly acute low back pain going into the buttock, 5-6 treatments. She's like, yep, I'm good. I'm back to my workouts. But at the end, it was like, but I still think I need an MRI to see what's going on.
That's
like,
always tough.
The pain's gone. I'm back to everything, but I still think I need that MRI. And I'm like, it's challenging,
Yeah.
But yeah, you try to do that as much as you can. Like, I've even had a few older people as of late too, that they're like, chronic low back pain, but I want to move. I'm still pushing through it. And I'm like, that's awesome. And then they go, but I don't know if you can help me. And it's like, yeah, we definitely can. Like, so it's like
100%.
their actions are in the right vein, where it's just like, yep, I still do the stuff I want to do. I'm like, great.
Such conflicting.
Let's make that easier.
It's funny when you motivationally interview these people too, because they just don't have answers. When it's like, why do what do you think is going on? It's a disc bulge, and what does that mean to you? I don't really know. Like, why can't you do the stuff? I don't know. I was told not to, or I'm afraid. Like, I love getting those acute low back pain patients, and once you get them calmed down in a visit or two, like, load the bar up and deadlift with them. Like, let's go. That's so empowering. Yeah, pick this medicine ball off the floor. Go.
Yeah, I don't think anything we can do would be more powerful than like building resilient bodies and minds. I mean, that's kind of what we're called to do. And right on the money, man. Plant those seeds early and make it. I mean, you got to do it with empathy, but at the same time, I think there can be some value in being somewhat nonchalant and not doing the opposite of what we shit on all the time, where it's like, oh, you have the worst back I've ever seen. Oh, you come in with this, being respectful of it, but at the same time, being like, yeah, many people have these. This is stuff we've talked about in previous pods and things like that. So Casey, you mentioned some McKenzie-based things, just rhythmic, mobility, so to speak. I'm kind of the same way. I preach. I mean, I do kind of preach like the same thing you said. Movement doesn't equal harm too, because if you've ever had back pain, you start realizing really quickly that, man, a lot of stuff hurts. Like rolling in bed is uncomfortable. Getting up is uncomfortable. So being able to use that from a place of experience and tell people, being able to name those things and then use it as a education tool and say, but do you really think you're damaging your back when you roll in bed? They're like, no. See, that's wrong, right? Walking, same thing. You're going to walk like you got a corn cob up your ass for a while. You're locked up and rigid, but we want to get it moving, and then from a mechanical standpoint, I suppose, just preaching early morning mobility right away. Like, don't wait until 11 to start doing your HEP. Like, get out of bed a little early, make the time for yourself and get yourself on the best platform you can. And, life's going to be all right. Be on the path to recovery, and then do that even for maintenance too.
Yeah.
You're going to want to fight fire with fire. You're going to want to put a corn cob up there before you go walking. What's
the science say on that?
It's very poor.
How do I end up in the experimental group?
Yeah, I'm still doing research, Nick.
You really,
I don't know what the sham's gonna be. Some sort of inflatable device, I guess. Maybe.
Oh my god!
Yikes!
Oh, good lad.
You think your back hurts now?
Maybe it's
all great
here.
exposure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was as far as back pain go. I mean, I could correlate this with back pain, but that was my eye-opening. I'm a hick from North Dakota type of awakening when I was my first year at USD. I spent a week up in the metro, deep downtown clinic, and this dude came in. It was like my second day up there, and therapist that I was kind of learning from, he was familiar with it, but I wasn't expecting it. This dude's a bartender. He was a bartender in the 90s, and talking about how, like, he had pain with work, prolonged standing. Like, all right, that makes sense. Picking up cases, all right,
Yeah.
you get that, and then, when he's receiving from his partner, and I'm like, that was my hick moment. Like,
Tell me
I've never
more.
heard that before, and yeah, I mean, you just got to be empathetic. I don't recall what the strategies were to.
I was gonna say, you teach them new techniques.
They were not. I do not recall any educational stuff, but this was a long time ago. The world's changed.
Yeah. I would assume you could do some sort of sideline technique. I don't know.
Mackenzie
Problem
probably
solver.
has something for it. Mackenzie
yeah.
does.
Yeah, you're gonna want to start. That's a prone press up for sure.
And if not, Adrian Lowe has some type of pain management approach to it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Metaphors, at least.
Graded exposure.
Good.
Yeah, graded exposure for sure. That's a great use of that.
Just the tip.
And
just
pacing. Both of them, you're going to want to get both involved.
Jeremy, I love it. I just want to see you go through the rest of the pod, not even being able to breathe, bro.
Turn off the camera.
Casey kills me.
It's good stuff. That's good tips and tricks.
I don't understand what's so funny about this. We're being
Nothing
right now. Nothing is funny about this. This is the world
do you guys have things you like to do, like from a therapist standpoint, help calm them down when they're really high up? Do you guys, like Nick, do you think the needling is something with acute back pain that helps at all, even though it's not likely muscle other than guarding?
I don't needle many acute.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't think it's been the big key to that.
Yeah.
I do feel there's value in decompressive techniques. I think it just helps calm them down a little bit. I think it's comfortable almost universally. So, simple long axis traction.
Back to the 90s.
With some rhythmic, like, circumduction with that, or abduction, adduction, just kind of calming all that tissue down. I had this individual come into the clinic like early in 2022, I remember, and it was like, just, hey, nobody has a hole. Nick, can you make something work here? And she's up at the front in a wheelchair. Like, yeah, I'll do that. And she was just so bummed because, I don't know, she's tons of pain, and saw our doctor's like, go do therapy like today if you can. And I think she was expecting some more, but did a lot of circuits of that with getting her sideline, doing some tissue mobilization. I don't mind using topical analgesics either. I'm not ever proclaiming to them that it's fixing anything, and that's the advice I give them too when they're buying stuff over the counter.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like, if it helps cool them off a little bit, if it helps take a little bit of that edge off, great, and then get them in. This is where you got to get creative with your frequencies and durations, but I'm just going to pull it, like, let's say that was a Wednesday that I saw her. I made time the very next day, like Thursday morning, to see her right at like 8:00. I'm like, I want to see you right away. I'm not going to be like, okay, come back next Monday, and do these 4 or 5 exercises, and hopefully it helps.
Or next
like,
Thursday.
I want to stack this. Like, I want to get after it. Right. And that was incredibly rewarding. And it sounds like I'm putting myself over, but I'm using it as an example where it was successful. Because there's been times where it hasn't. But she came the very next day. All of a sudden, she's done up. She's like, she was working from home. I think she was in banking, but at least she's done up, dressed professionally, and was not in the wheelchair. And that was like right away. Then you could use that to like build momentum in the treatment right there. You look so much better. Like, you must be feeling better. Oh yeah, I am. And it's really remarkable. Yeah, I went to bed last night feeling great. Woke up this morning as stiff again, but I started loosening up, and I'm like, yeah, let's get right back at it. So I think that when you talk about acuity, I think you got to look at your frequency and how you're going to take them on right away.
It's fair.
Is that a mic drop or something? I don't know. Got quiet.
Mine was blown.
Yeah.
Get them in the next day. Yeah.
Jeremy is still thinking about the 90s reference.
No, I think you're right.
Analgesics, no.
No, I say that too. Analgesics.
Part of both ways. Depends on where you
mispronounce that.
Depends on where you apply it.
But same thing, right? Like you'll get like so many. Now you can't breathe. Um, you know, people, oh no, Tiger Balm saved my life. No, Blue Emu did.
Yeah,
No,
Blue Emo, man.
BioFreeze does. You know, like, so I say the same thing. I go, I look at it and you go, you know, do I think it's, you know, changing the root cause? No. But if it helps you get through your day, I'm all for it. If it helps you move better, I'm all for it.
Same thing. Maybe it did save their life in that context. Is it would like it allowed them to move a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Just open the door.
And then, you know, it's like, to me, it's no different than like KT tape, right? Like some people, you throw that on and they'd be like, what? You're telling me there's no medication in this? You know, just like couple straps up the paraspinals and like, they're like, oh man, like that, you know? So, but it, you know, to me, again, it's like, it's not the science behind that specific technique, but it's basically like, again, a tool to get them moving, a tool 100%. To reduce fear.
And I do think I think there's some value in just letting them know too. Like I think I had a patient literally come back one time feeling like they had such a positive response from the rock tape that they were like, okay, what medication's on there? Thinking it was, you know, some type of analgesic on there. And I'm like, no, but it does help your circulation, which you all need. We all need to promote better healing. And I do kind of buy into that. I think I've shared before, like just my own anecdotal evidence from using people's camera phones on bruising. So you could see some distinction in color patterns there. So I do believe there's an effect, positive effect it has on circulation, which is what's going to help you heal faster.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm almost anti-ice now, guys. I think I've shared with you that
I have definitely moved away from ice. I almost never ice anymore.
Yeah, in my own personal experiences, like rehabbing, and then just telling patients like, let's ditch those ice packs out. You know?
Yeah, move on.
I mean, yeah, physiologically, it doesn't, right? It's shrinking your capillaries. You're not getting good blood flow.
Yeah, I'll tell patients. I mean, if you're absolutely miserable, there is some analgesic effect to slapping ice on. I mean, if you need to slap some ice on just to sit comfortably for a while and catch your breath, I'm okay with it. But the reality of it is the more you ice, probably the slower you're going to heal. You know, if you want to get back going, you know, movement, blood flow.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you're not poofing up huge from swelling, heat's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, probably what I do with really sensitive back pain patients, I still get down. I still do CPAs, UPAs, but that's like kind of that same understanding of this isn't fixing anything back there. I'm not putting something back into place. But I noticed when we did pelvic tilts or lumbar rotation, that rhythmic stuff, I love that rhythmic stuff. Like, boy, you're really guarded. You're just afraid to move that area. Let me get in there a little bit. Let's loosen it up and then try it again. And, you know, just give them that caveat of we're just kind of desensitizing you a little bit with some direct movement there because you're so tight and guarded that your body's not letting your back move. All your motion's coming from thoracic spine and from hips. Like that lumbar spine's not moving at all. So, and it's not because it's stuck. It's just you're protecting it with everything around there. So let's see if we can't get that loosened up a little bit. You know, this is not something you need to come see me for a bunch. Once we get you moving today, just keep moving. You know, like you said, get up in the morning, do your exercises. You know, I give them bed exercises right away. I said, before you even get out of bed, do these exercises, progress yourself and go. I mean,
nip it in the bud.
Yep.
Start getting after it. And then, I mean, longer term on more of the preventative side, you know, I do address a lot of, you know, thinking globally. I look, you know, hip mobility, hip openers, and T-spine mobility, right? I'll let them know maybe your lumbar spine's taking the brunt, you know, a little overwork here because you're not, you know, hinging appropriately at your hips, and you don't have the appropriate range of motion functionally that you need there. Same thing with your T-spine. You know, maybe you're locked up too much there and creates too many obvious fulcrums in the lumbar. So maybe maintenance there and getting them to understand and appreciate those aspects too, those tenants. So anything else, Jeremy? You seem real quiet tonight, partner.
No, I like the same thing. Open books, T-spine rotations and seated, good stuff, really good stuff. So
yeah. Any other comments to make on this or analysis?
No, like that's the big thing, like reducing fear and keep moving, you know, and like, and finding, like saying movement's not bad, finding what you can do, not focusing on what you can't. And just like realizing, being like, just so much of the population thinks the spine is so fragile. It's not. It's a strong and resilient structure, like really resilient. But it's just like basically years and years of bad propaganda. Don't don't ever lift, don't bend, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So just got to change the program.
I know for me, as I've gotten a little older, I've had a few cases of back pain with some ridiculous pain, and it's not comfortable. But my wife always knows, because I got to go to the gym. I mean, that's the number one thing I got to do when my back's killing me is I go to the gym and I graded exposure into it. I get on the back extension machine, start out as light as I can, and I just keep upping the weight and comfortably until I'm back to being able to do. And I'll do the same thing. I'll go over and load the bar up really light, and I start deadlifting, and I load the leg press up too. Just from a squat standpoint, I control it a little better than a barbell squat at that point when I'm sore. So I kind of do it that way. But those are my big things. And then I get on the cable machine and load up just some isometrics too, some core isometric stuff, just to get those muscles firing and almost fatigue them out, because they've been guarding so much that day because I've been so sore. So just give them a different way to work. And man, it feels so much better. That's the best. And then I
100%.
walk on the treadmill to end.
I've had 2 temporary flares that I was able to work out really, really quickly by doing the deadlifting pattern you're talking about, starting with like 65 rubbers, and then just like work up to like, add 10. And before I do it, I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, I'm going to stop here, but my pain was like completely gone.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I get to like a full workout, but at least I'm getting back up to like, you feel like you're lifting, that's like weight, and same with, like I said, back extension machine, which some people hate. I'm like, it feels kind of good to load it up like that.
Yeah, some people do hate that. They despise that. It's been a machine that's been kind of like the pariah of the gym. That and like the resisted crunch too. Like, people talk about just the location of the force load, and the adverse effects it has on that. But who knows?
Yeah, I've found my patients when I load them up like that and sitting for back extension, they like it. They think it feels good. Yeah.
All right. A little activity, muscle activation.
Yeah, I think it's if nothing else, it's that 60-second holds I'll do sometimes just to get that hypoalgesic effect. That alone, those first couple sessions is kind of nice. 60-second holds and sitting. I use the cable machine with the strap around the back and just have them hold kind of a comfortable position. I don't make them do like total upright or anything, but just sit comfortably, hold that position. Kicks in the paraspinals. They do their endorphin and Keflin thing. They feel better. Tricked them, Jeremy. Tricked them.
Do you feel like you could ever get a strong endorphin response from like a really exciting game call?
Oof,
definitely.
I've been at a few of them, and a great announcer or commentator really helps that.
Yep. Or analyst, as I tried to tee up a moment ago, but that's okay. Jeremy didn't take the bait. He just went with it. Took me straight forward.
That's all right.
Or to comment or analyze it. So our top 5 for no particular reason other than maybe it's playoff season in football. We just finished bowl season. In football, we're all football nerds, but it doesn't have to be football. Basketball's underway.
Not all of mine are.
The puck has dropped.
Nor are mine.
Yep. So here we are, top 5 favorite sports announcers / commentators. So can be anything. Pretty wide open here, boys. Who would like to go first?
I wouldn't mind. I feel like this is a weaker list for me. I'm not a huge announcer guy. I don't necessarily get caught up in who's doing what. I don't hate announcers either. I have some friends that are like, I can't do Collinsworth. Collinsworth's on. I can't listen.
I believe Jeremy does hate him. He hasn't he's grown.
Joe Buck also makes my list.
Yeah.
Of really poopy ones.
Yeah. So I don't get that list wholly drawn into that, especially TV guys, because I'm just so enamored into what's on the TV. I oftentimes aren't even listening. But radio dudes make a difference, I would say.
Radio's good.
Agreed. But I'm saying a bad commentator can take away from the experience of the game.
I can agree.
I fully
with that.
believe that.
No, I do agree with that. And I think there was a time I've come around, like, I don't want to just shit on those other guys, but I've come around more, especially on Colin. I think I've grown to respect him a lot more. And than I used to. I think he's less of a shill for himself and less, like arrogant. Buck just comes across, and again, I've softened on him over the years too, but he just comes across like he's pretty arrogant. Like just listening to his tone of voice, the way he calls things. I hear you there. I mean, it's just
his call when Randy Moss did the fake moon.
I told Michelle about that earlier. I'm like,
that's when he lost me.
Yep,
that's
he lost
so
about 90% of the Vikings fans forever.
Do you guys feel like
that's hilarious?
Like national guys just aren't as good as local guys? Just from that,
definitely for something like when you're talking about the Bison, right?
Yeah.
Like if you watch, I get ESPN Plus, so I can watch most of their games throughout the year, and the guys that call them during the regular season are very strong. They're very familiar with the team, the program. I thought this year in the playoffs they've done better than in the past. They really have.
They seem more prepared.
Yes, the national crew though, it's like, and I've heard it described this way on KFM when they talk about Monday Night Football and why like national games, like big time, primetime games, they typically suck because they come in, they're moving town to town, and they're not really familiar with the team all that much in a lot of cases. Now, if it's Dallas, everybody knows everything about Dallas, right? But if they come to Minnesota, they have like 3 or 4 takes that they're just going to go with, and they beat them to death. And it's kind of funny. After they shared that on a morning episode of the Morning Trip after the Vikes played Seattle like 4 or 5 years ago. It's like I can't unhear it anymore when they do it. It's like all of a sudden, like we had to play Seattle 2 years in a row, on Monday Night Football, and the second time, everything was like the same exact thing. Russell Wilson recovering from some injury. That was just beaten to death that whole entire night. That, and then one of their, Bobby Wagner doing something, right? It's usually if it's the home team, they get to meet with all those guys. They come up with their 4 or 5 storylines they're going to really run with that night.
Yeah, it was. I watched the Green Bay Lions game. Same deal. Like, man, they had this narrative of Aaron Rodgers just being this guy that is great, and he makes these plays, and he played horrendous. And I felt like they wouldn't move off that narrative, though. It was like, God, the guy's doing terrible. It's okay to say he's doing terrible. I don't know how many times it was like, well, whenever he's in a slump, man, he just needs to find 13 and 18. Like,
yeah,
God, you said that like 12
8 different times.
Come on, guys.
Yep.
And then Lazard doing that.
To make it worse, he did hit Lazard for that touchdown, and then you heard it again.
Yeah, I heard it.
Like we were just saying.
Well, what about the 3 overthrown passes and the running around not finding his open receivers? Like, they don't even talk about that because, like you said, Nick, their narrative's so strong, they can't go away from it because they're like, well, that's all we have to talk about.
It's kind of interesting, right? And I don't even watch the main broadcast of Monday Night Football. To Jeremy's point, maybe your point too, Casey, like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, they're not my favorite. I love watching the Manning cast, though. I've grown to just love that. They're
funny.
It's probably brought me back into Monday Night Football more than I have in a long, long time. Because, and another example of that narrative, because I really generally, unless my fantasy football team has some implications, I really just watch the Vikings start to finish. So last year we seems like we're always on the road on Monday night too. So last year we were in Chicago. Chicago was terrible last year, and we were still potentially in the hunt for the playoffs at the time. It was mid-December, and the whole entire game, what they talked about and where the camera went was Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy, is he on the hot seat? Is he going to make it next year? And you're like, God, we're up by 2 scores this whole game, leading start to finish. And it felt like the whole thing was about Matt Nagy and Justin Fields, and if they were going to coexist, if they're going to make it on the next year, and what was going to happen. And you're like, but just completely ignore the team that's actually winning the game.
Yeah, the team that matters.
So, but good commentators though, man, they can lift you up and they can have some famous calls. So
Yeah, so my number 5, I
Yeah.
might do some controversy right off the bat. But I grew up listening to this guy, and nobody would get me fired up more for the event I was watching than this dude. Now, I will say this spot would maybe be more for the duo than the specific guy, but I went with the guy that was probably the better announcer of the two.
You can't do that.
I didn't, so I picked one of the two.
Okay.
And this gentleman goes by the name of Jim Ross from WWF. One of the best announcers. That guy announced wrestling my entire wrestling career was brought to me by Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. I mean, that duo was it was fun. They were exciting. I mean, he killed him. Like, oh my God, he threw him off the top. I mean, some of those calls still sit in my head. And they got involved in the action. And I get it's not a real sport, but I guess commentating, they brought a lot of value to it. I felt like they enriched it quite a bit, and because they participated quite a bit, everybody knew him, and he was always the straight guy of the two. Like you said, this is despicable, and I can't believe he's pulling a chair out. Somebody's got to stop him. Tried to keep it real and brought levity to the situation. So that's my number 5, Jim Ross. I listened to a lot of his
it's fun
commentary.
I love it. I love it. Do you want, Jeremy, you want me to go next, and you can finish us off this
Up
time?
to you.
I'll just go because that's a perfect segue. My number 5 is Jim Ross. Good old JR. I was like, I'm going to put this on. These guys are going to be like, that freaking wrestling work. But no, same thing, Casey. I mean, I grew up more like initially with like Jesse Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon. But man, when the Attitude Era took off, those two were the best. And you're right, it's like a duo, but JR's JR. I mean, he was very knowledgeable too. I mean, you could reference all this stuff and make it fun. And he was like your point of view, and in knowing the background, like the business side of that, that's what they wanted him to be. He was like supposed to represent the viewer. He could, he was always going to point out the guy who's cheating and that damn evil Mr. McMahon and his choice of different terminology for like bad women, like she's a Jezebel and she's a succubus.
Lawler just wanted to see the puppies,
and he just wanted puppies. Damn it!
Show me the puppies.
Damn it, King! This is bigger than puppies.
What a duo!
What a duo! Jim Ross, good old JR. My number 5 as well.
All right.
Speechless.
He didn't
again.
make my.
Are you gonna go with list. Jerry the King?
Yeah, he was the better of the two.
My number 5 is Mike Breen, NBA commentator. I know you guys watch a lot of NBA.
Who? Mike Breen?
Mike Breen. B-R-E-E-N. B-R-E-E-N. So there's nothing better than watching the Warriors. I mean,
it's debatable.
Yeah, well, whatever.
You're a Grizzlies fan.
But true, you've always been a big Grizzlies fan. But the his iconic call is bang. It's like, so like somebody will come and hit a 3, bang. I don't know, just gives me shivers, man.
You like that? See, you got me going. I know God, we're tangenting here again, but I had Mike Goldberg on my short list for just a moment. But I think guys with like a notorious call sign or whatever, I think they become characters of themselves, and they try to make it more about themselves. Like Goldie would do that in UFC. He just couldn't wait, no matter what the finish, if it was a submission or a knockout. It was like, it's all over. And he would like talk over, regardless of the moment or what was going on. There was no uniqueness. I just felt like as time went on, he made it about himself. Like, this is my call to make. And I'm gonna
see. And I would say, I don't think he's that guy. Like he just like, it's very natural. Like he's great play-by-play, like just like calm, steady voice. He's not annoying, knowledgeable. And it's just like in the moment, you just see it coming and it's just,
all right. Bang! He's not a Gus Johnson. Like I can't listen to Gus Johnson either.
No.
Like call football. He just freaks out way too much.
Yeah.
It's like unrealistic.
No, it's like, and then he's right back down to earth. So he's like, yeah, Mike Breen, he's money.
Nice. All right, Casey, you're number 4.
My number 4, also kind of a catchphrase guy. But again, I think it's a lot more heartfelt, was a lot more real. This is a guy, obviously Fargo area meant a lot to him. Bison football meant a lot to him. It was Scott Miller, the voice of the Bison, men's basketball and football. He loved the Bison. You could hear it in his radio. I mean, I'd turn off the TV and listen to the radio all the time just to hear him. Just passionate. The my oh my, and there's your dagger. Like, he didn't overuse them, but they came at the right time. People couldn't wait for it in some ways. You'd like listen to it and you're like, oh yeah, now you know the game's over. Like, it was cool. He was big into the community. The players loved him, coaches loved him. It's just a huge part of it. We talk about local guys versus national guys. I know most people probably wouldn't know him, but he was awesome. Died of cancer way too early. Left a big hole that I still hasn't been filled, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I mean,
number 4, Scott Miller.
Yeah, Scott Miller. Awesome. That's the one I wasn't even thinking about, but you're right on the money there. Good segue though, because my number 5 is my only radio guy on here. It's Paul Allen, radio voice for the Minnesota Vikings the last like 20 some odd years. Obviously I'm a homer, and he's a great homer. And for a guy who's not originally from Minnesota in that area, God, you couldn't tell. I love listening to it. And, he's got a ton of great calls. The Minneapolis Miracle is fantastic. I mean, it still gives me goosebumps listening to him make that call at the end. But actually, same thing with Joe Buck, though. So maybe it's just the moment. I even like when Buck called it. But with Paul, I think the example I'll lean on, and recently this year, there's an awesome video package I think you can find on YouTube. I think the Vikings put it out there, but then Pat McAfee covered it as well on his pod. And it's Paul Allen covering like the final, 5 minutes of the fourth quarter in the Buffalo game, and then like the kick and or some of the plays at overtime, and just the passion that comes out of him. I mean, both highs and lows, you could feel it, and he represents you as the fan. So that's my number 4, Paul Allen, the radio voice of the Minnesota Vikings.
He's a stud.
Yeah, you don't get better highs than him. That horse racing background really comes out.
Yeah. And he gets me to want to buy Continental diamonds.
Have you?
No. I'm a Marcotte jewelry guy.
You've always been a big Marcotte guy.
Huge Marcotte.
I actually have. I'm all the way.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing. I'm not like the hugest Vikings guy, so that's probably the only thing that bothers me a little bit about PA is the lows are really low. Like he's just like, you can tell he's pissed off when they're losing, and like he should be. Well, yeah, I know, and I could see maybe as a big fan, you want to be there with him. But as me just listening to the game, I'm like, let's get back to it here, PA. It's getting kind of boring listening to you now that they're behind, because he's just so like, they didn't get it. They didn't get it.
But we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, so that's important, right?
Yeah.
Like in Minnesota, you're always looking for that too. So
yeah, I would agree. I love his huge calls, but
when they still have a chance, though, man, he's full of optimism too. He's that fun guy who's like, they're only 2 touchdowns away, and listening. And the other good one is listening to like the key play moments from the Colts game. That one's fun because they're like coming right out of halftime. He's like just dead to the world. You're joining us. It's 33-0. We'll see if we can do anything to make this a competitive game. It kind of it reminds me a little bit of Major League. During those early days of the Indians on there, where he's like, I don't know, making references to the crowd and all that stuff. So, all right, Jeremy, number 4.
Right. My number 4. I put a caveat. I only like some of his announcing, but it's Jim Nantz, not for his football announcing. College basketball and the Masters. He just such a calming voice. Like he just like you could just lay on the couch and fall asleep listening to him commentate through
Golf, man. It's
Yeah.
golf.
That might not be him.
No,
Yeah.
it's like I just saw it.
You're right,
They're
though. Yeah.
already teasing the Masters, even though it's 3 months away yet. But
Masters is great.
it's just
It's good
like
stuff.
he is
The
the
ultimate nap
Masters
program.
Yeah.
Especially when it falls on Easter. Like
Yeah.
when the final day falls on Easter Sunday and you've had a nice little meal
Yep.
and you say goodbye to everybody and you can just like lay around and
Who's winning?
and you're right. He can, and he like has that like soft, like, he does the golf whisper to
Yeah. Yeah.
great
He's
little
like,
putt.
he's just always telling a story. So I don't know. I like him. He's
bogeyed
good.
this hole twice on Thursday and Friday. Hold out par yesterday. We'll see what he's got. I love him for that.
I'd put that in my sleep hygiene book for sure.
I can't sleep. Go
Yeah.
Masters telecast.
Yeah,
Love it.
YouTube clips of him.
CBS. He's CBS OG. Like,
Yeah, he is.
for real.
Yeah. Which is a nice segue to my number 3, which is Jim Nance.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just something about, even in football, I don't mind him in football just because it's very even level. You know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Very professional. But yeah, the Masters thing, his golf stuffs. I mean, he was built for that. I mean,
Yeah.
but everything he does, I think he's just real even. He doesn't have bad commentary, So
Was
I
he with-
like stuff he
can you
does.
Can you guys remind me, who was he with before Romo? I mean, he
Ooh.
cycled through a couple guys. Was he with Collinsworth for a while before Collinsworth went with Michaels?
It's so confusing to remember where everybody is
Some of
because
these
they
guys-
just
these
kept
guys were-
hopping there for a few
Yeah.
years.
Yep. But I've liked him for a long time. That's a right of mine there. No, awesome. My number 3, Jeremy. I love this guy for basketball.
Let's go.
It's classic. It's Marv Albert.
Mhm.
Mainly thinking of like the early and mid 90s, like when I was kind of into basketball, following the NBA. I felt like, man, I had great memories. Like, I'm just gonna paint the picture. It's like late April, May, school's winding down. You stay up a little later. I'd stay up and watch like these West Coast playoff games, watch like Phoenix play Portland, and you're like, oh man, I don't love basketball, but I was into it. And it's
Yeah.
like you'd hear all these Marv Albert calls, and his voice was just awesome for it.
Yeah, do you got a good Marv Albert? You got one?
No, I can't.
You should have prepared.
Do
better.
you?
No. I think if I heard his voice right now, I could do it right after pretty quick because his voice is pretty unique.
Very distinct. Yeah. His son Kenny sounds a lot like him too, I think. And Kenny calls, he's moved up. He's like an A. I can't call him a C-list guy, but he's like an A-, B+ commentator for Fox. I don't remember who he's partnered with, but he's been doing that for a long time, and he always reminds me of his dad. He sounds quite a bit like that. But
Never
Marv,
had put that together.
I remember traveling too, going back and forth from college, and during the fall time, like if I just be picking up like a radio game, I think Westwood One would like carry the national, like if this Sunday Night Football, Westwood One would like carry it. Marv was calling that for a long time too, which was always kind of cool. Like his voice just sounded like sports to me. So
Yeah.
that's my number 3 is Marv Albert.
I like it. My number 3 was mentioned already, and it's PA.
That was Jim Ross. Damn it.
Jim Ross.
There's,
He's saving that for
yeah.
number 1.
For the trifecta.
We
But,
don't get many of those.
You're right. High highs, low lows, but I'm like, I don't know. There's nobody better to listen to a game with. Like there was a while, like if you could get it to semi match up, where I'd like just play the radio over the telecast, because he's just fun to listen to. But not much better than, and he's loose. Back in the AP days. Oh man.
Yeah. He did that with Dalvin. Little callback.
Yeah.
In the Colt, I know for sure in the Colts one.
Colts
He's got
one,
that
yeah.
screen.
Yep.
It was Somebody should be producing this and like playing like a couple little clips. We got to hear a Minneapolis Miracle call.
Oh,
See what I
that's
can
money
do.
too.
See what I can do.
See what you got up your sleeve. Which, by the way, I noticed, Casey, you're not wearing a quarter zip tonight.
Which is odd.
Is everything okay?
Yeah,
Okay?
we're worried about you.
New year, new me. I burned them all.
No,
Yep.
no, you didn't.
Did
I moved.
not.
Exclusively, I'm gone back to sweaters.
I full disclosure, I bought myself a new quarter zip today to comply with my bet. So you guys will see it. You guys will see it for one of the meetings tomorrow.
Oh God,
Is it an SDSU one?
Oh,
you paid for that with real money.
Well,
I hope at least you got like a blue one, so it looks like Big Stone colors, so you can just
it's
rip
blue.
the logo
I had to go
off.
blue.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, Casey, you would not have wanted to go into the Sioux Falls Shields today.
The amount of championship stuff hanging up.
The merch was big there. Good for them though. Lots of champ.
Yeah. I will say their white helmets with the blue rabbit has a fire helmet. That sucker's sweet. I will say that. I like that helmet.
I like their uni. I mean, I'm a Under Armour uni guy too. I think that's solid.
I do hate. I saw quite a few people wearing Fargo Dome, home of the Jackrabbits shirts when I was down in Texas.
What?
Which now
I did not know that.
Now the Jacks have won 2 times in a row in the Dome now, I believe. They are 4-16 in the Fargo Dome. That seems a little premature to make that shirt. Yeah. Like, I'm just saying, it's okay to be cocky, but at least have a winning record.
I'm kind of ticked off with them again, man.
I like it. Yeah.
That is a fire helmet,
right? That blue and white looks good. Mm-hmm. They should wear that sucker all the time. That's like one of my favorite college helmets now.
Yeah,
sharp looking. White unis.
They also had these shirts that said "History Made," and I'm like they had a long sleeve, short sleeves, and all that. It's like the NCAA champions, And you're like, what history did they make? I mean, it was the first. Maybe the fact it was their first FCS champion.
It's probably a stock. Who is their gear provider? Is it Nike? Is it Adidas?
Under Armour's there. Like they make their stuff for the actual program.
Yeah,
but Shields, it was like Nike. They had everything. They had all types of crap. Yeah.
I was gonna say sometimes I feel like those are stock. Like Adidas History Made, and they'll just slap their stuff up on it.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be on a tangent here. Anyways, my number 2, I would say for me, this was another team that really stood out for me. Mm-hmm. But unlike JR and Jerry Lawler, I went with the Jerry Lawler of this duo. And my number 2 is John Madden. Fox was like the only football we got for quite a little bit there when we had Prime Star. We got the local California Fox channel, so I watched a lot of John Madden, Pat Summerall. I love that duo. He made it fun for me as a kid. The squiggly lines, the turducken, the stuttering, the stumbling, bumbling. I guess that wasn't him, but that was Berman. But the excitement of he just gets so excited when things were happening, and it was just fun. I don't know, and he was smart. I mean, he knew football, obviously. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there was that fact. He always had stories. The circling the Snicker bars in the lineman's pants. And he just captures stuff like that. It was always just fun little things. He made football fun for me more than any commentator probably has. So it was a different way to watch the game at that time for sure.
Yeah.
John Madden, that's my number 2.
John Madden.
Like it.
Love it. That's my number 2, John Madden.
That's true too.
And
he's got an arm for a cannon.
This is for real, John Madden. My short notes said, the Fox transition was huge, and part of that was in my mind because they have a sweet documentary on him, just called like All Madden, that the Fox Network put together like last year, a couple of years ago, and they talk about what a big deal that was, and how it was a massive miss by CBS to lose that NFL contract after they said it was like 31 years.
Yeah.
CBS had it, and then Fox swooped in. CBS took it for granted. They just didn't think anybody would outbid them. And then Rupert Murdoch was like, I want John Madden. And that was like he was the biggest name at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put down the transition to Monday Night Football, the video games, obviously. I mean, if you played enough Madden, I mean, you got used to his voice and all those calls and everything like that. The ad campaigns, like, boom, tough acting, Tinactin.
Oh, yeah.
I maybe want to buy Tinactin, even though I didn't have athlete's foot. I just
I had a can of it. I thought I needed it.
I think my dad had athlete's foot. But,
I had it in my bag. It was cool. Made your feet wait.
I was going to ask you, Casey, do you
cold,
since
too.
you've mentioned him already, and maybe Jeremy will have him too. I don't know, but like, I wonder if he's more of like a generational guy, and like he clicked more with us, because it seemed like my dad, Michelle's dad, like guys from that generation, they would bitch about it, and they'd be like, he's too overbearing. I don't know if maybe their guy was more of a Howard Cosell type, but
Dan Fouts.
I just think like
Cosell's was a personality too, though. He
was, but he was not a John Madden. They were very different, I think. John, like you said, he was like a chubby dude. Like, I love seeing him back when he was coaching, and he's like smoking heaters on the sideline and just yelling at
high-waisted tight pants.
Yeah,
polyester.
But like
back when people were wearing suits, he was in like a white button-up short sleeve and blue polyester pants.
Yeah, and I don't know, like those older guys, I never heard a good thing about John Madden from them. They were always like sick of him, and he's too loud and obnoxious. And here I was like, I don't think he's that bad. I don't mind the marker, the teleprompter.
Yeah, I can see people going, well, he's just trying to make it about him, not about the game on the field. I could see that point of view maybe about it, because I'm not gonna lie, as a kid, like I was like more interested in what John Madden was talking about than what was going on the field at times. Because a lot of times on the Fox game, at that point I was one of those kids that liked the Broncos because everybody did. So it wasn't usually a Broncos game on. I was just watching whatever was on. So
they had Fox for a long time. They were just they've loosened up all this stuff lately, but it used to be just NFC. So and they had the game of the week, so that was the 3:30 slot, and it was like Cowboys, Niners, Packers, Giants. I mean, they didn't have much variety there.
Yeah, it's because I was an AFC guy. I was like Broncos and the Browns were the teams I liked, but then Fox was all I ever watched. So it was interesting. Like you said, it was strictly NFC, nothing else in there.
Yeah, it was like
a lot of 49ers. A lot of 49ers.
Yeah, they were on like every week. It was like Dallas and San Francisco, and those. I mean, Green Bay came up, and there wasn't much else. They squeeze in. And NFC East, they have big markets, so they get squeezed in all the time.
Yeah, and then I imagine the Vikings probably had some more local contract with a different station, so they were never really on Fox either. That was pretty.
They did when they got hot, like in that late '90s run. They got hot and they got some big time games, but you got to do that consistently though too. You got to earn, earn those prime time spots. All right, Jeremy, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Bob Costas. So specifically, this is like
you like his work in everything.
No, late '90s Bulls, man. That was just the NBA Finals on NBC. And I don't know, he's okay in the Olympics too, but that's what I associate. No one watches the Olympics anymore, but no, I think of like '98 Bulls, iconic finals. So he was just the voice of it. So that's what it brings me back to. So
ironically, since that tied to Casey, my number 2 on that documentary with John Madden, Bob Costas was the first guy he ever called a game with. They were super Costas was super young. They got slapped together.
Super tiny.
Cool little story. And they didn't do it much together after that, but it was just like kind of a neat thing. So cool. All of our number 2s had a connection right there.
Nice little connection. Time to move on to number 1. Huh?
Number 1's though, the real deal.
Yeah. All right. My number 1, still mostly going with football, but he's had some huge calls and some other things. It's Al Michaels. I just love him. He's consummate professional. He's had some of the hugest calls in sports history. Miracle on Ice. Right. So and that alone probably got to put you in top 5. So But I like his consistency. I was a Madden Pat Summerall guy, and then those two got together, and I mean, he replaced Pat Summerall's, and he was better,
Yeah.
and which was hard to do. Like,
I mean, Pat,
totally.
but yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, Pat was pretty dry. I mean,
he was dry, but he fit with John well.
Yeah.
It was just that like straight man kind of job.
Yeah.
And Al came in and still was able to be a straight man, but have some excitement too, kind of keep that pace. So, and he just still does it, man. He just always on. And anytime I listen to him, he's got a good mix of knowledge. He doesn't seem like he hits the narrative as hard as some of those guys. He's willing to let them kind of do the narrative and just talk with them about it a lot of times, which I appreciate because he doesn't seem so repetitive. Just really seems really well prepared all the time and really consistent, doesn't do bad games. When the people in the booth are off, boy, he elevates them really well, I think too. There's no dead air when they say dumb things that don't make sense. He's able to reel it back in. And yeah, as far as announcers go, just professional. I mean, top notch.
Almost like hard to find a flaw, right? I mean, yeah, because that's my number one, you son of a bitch.
It's like we had the same list
3 times.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's my number one. So you nailed so much of it. The smoothness, like the delivery, Miracle on Ice. I'd remind Michelle about that today. Then she said almost the same thing you said, Jeremy. I've never seen that movie. I'm like, it's like a real event. But
no, I'm not saying I didn't say the movie. I said I didn't watch like the Miracle on Ice.
1980. I don't think any of us did.
No, but I mean, you've seen the highlights. I hope
it's got to be like a top. I'd say top 3 call all time.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Whoever called Kirk Gibson's like, I don't believe what I just saw. That's up there too. But do you believe in miracles? The other things that I'd add, like when I grew up and started getting into football like huge, Monday Night Football was a big deal. And that booth to this day is still my favorite Monday Night booth. And it was a 3-man team of him, Frank Gifford, and Dan Deerdorf. And I mean, maybe just because that's when I came into it and I have huge nostalgia love for it. But I think back, man, that was awesome. Like I love that.
You weren't a Dennis Miller guy, huh?
No. Not, I mean,
no one was.
Yeah, no,
he killed Monday Night Football.
And I mean, you can make an argument has not really fully recovered from that period of time, right? And you had, his time, like you said, time with John Madden. I mean, that was great. He brought Collinsworth in, so even if you had like to put up with a rough, raw, young Collinsworth commentator, you still had Al Michaels to listen to, and he was great, He knows his stuff without being too much of a, biased commentator, where it's easy to default to the big market team that you know so much about. He kind of knows a little bit about both teams every time. So, man, he's the best all time, I think. Number one, Al Michaels.
I can't say anything that you guys didn't. So, also my number one.
Oh, yeah.
Trifecta.
We finally did it.
I'm telling you,
never done it.
I'm telling you, I mean, everything you guys just said, like, he's just good. Like, he's really good. I can't think of a time where I'm like, shut up, Al Michaels. Like, I can think of that for a lot of commentators, like, right? Like, that it's like steady Eddie. Like you said, I can't add anything. Like,
maybe that's the ultimate litmus test for these guys, right? That you don't get annoyed with them.
Yeah.
And
he's been doing it for what, like 50 years?
50 years, yeah.
A long time, man. Oh, man.
And he's done everything too, right? You talked Miracle, like he used to do baseball. They threw him in the NBA in the early 2000s for a while. Like, I think his most iconic stuff is football, or like what he'll be most remembered for, but maybe not most iconic. That'd probably be Miracle, but just really, really good. So
he had some funny things that were, even at his place right now, he had some moments early this season, because now he's just doing the Thursday night gig with Kirk Herbstreit, who I also love. Kirk's on like my short list for college.
Yeah.
I could have made an argument to put Kirk in my top 5 for his college.
He's a little too Ohio State for me,
Yeah, of course. But as far as pro, he needs to come along a little bit more in the pro game. that whole prime thing, I hope gets better in the years to come. And if Al sticks it out another few years, I mean, it will. But he had some moments, if you guys caught it, they're really funny. I'm sure you can find them on like Barstool Sports. But if you go back to the beginning of the year where there was like 4 or 5 week stretch of just awful Thursday night games.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like
low scoring.
21 points scored in like 3 weeks combined.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
And he made a comment.
Colts, Broncos. Ooh.
Like different games where he's like, he's laughing, but he's like, sometimes a game is so bad, it's actually good. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
And I love that because he's right. Like sometimes you're just astonished by how bad two teams could possibly be playing, and like nobody wants to win this game. And he's willing to call it out, and make it fun.
I think that was the Colts Broncos where they're
Was
like,
it? Yeah.
After that happened, they were like, the NFL just got set back 40 years.
Yeah, it was like
they're
11.
like, this is terrible.
The game was like 11-7. And
Yeah.
just awful.
I think there were like 12 turnovers in that game. It was just terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I think he's the best, man. That's awesome. Good list.
Cool.
Yeah, that was fun. Who would have guessed Jim Ross make 2 appearances?
I was guessing somebody in that duo
dropped
was
the
going
ball.
to make it.
I love it. I love that I wasn't the only one. That made my day.
You don't have to listen to him more than a few times to be stuck in that memory.
Yep. I want to go back and listen to a couple of these calls now before bed. I probably won't be able to sleep. I'll be so fired up.
Oh no, that's all right. Just a meditation. End it with the Masters highlights. You'll be okay.
Jim will throw you right to
just put 24 hours of Jim Nance.
I'll go from I'm sure I can find a YouTube compilation of Jim Ross like being pissed off or something.
Oh, that'd be a good one. Yeah.
Where there's
so
just
mad.
Somebody betrayed somebody and he's that's dastardly son of a bitch. But so I can watch like 5 minutes of that and then like you said, guys, doze off with some Jim Nance.
Yeah, maybe like funny Al Michael moments in the middle to just level you and Nance to put you to sleep.
Yeah.
You're set.
Sounds great.
We'll have to put one together.
Sleep hygiene 101.
Well, that completes episode 48 of PT Shop Talk. As always, hit us up at ptshoptalk@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook, PT Shop Talk. Same with Twitter at PT Shop Talk 1. And check us out on YouTube as well. See our ugly mug. See my new sweater. That's not a 3/4. First time in 48 episodes, I think I haven't worn a 3/4. So until next time, I'm Casey Hatson. With me as always, Nick Doling and Jeremy Van Kloppenberg.